Hey, what is up guys? This is Nishi from MST.TV back with another Market Watch episode. It was another pretty crazy week for us Yu-Gi-Oh players. We had YCS Charlotte, which was probably the biggest in-person event that we've seen in quite a long time, which also really kind of helped to solidify some things about the current format. But we also had a bunch of cool leaks coming out of the OCG, showcasing some new support for older archetypes that's going to be coming out within the next couple of sets. So today we're of course breaking down some trends that we're seeing on the market as a result of these reveals, and we'll be looking at what's actually worth keeping an eye on, as well as what stuff is just kind of like overhyped noise. Let's get started. Alright, so the first card we're going to take a look at here is Mech Edition. Shout out to Dragon Slayer Gaming who pointed this card out in the comments of the last Market Watch. The Mech archetype is one that hasn't really had that much support outside of its initial wave. We've seen the deck do a couple of interesting things. I do remember we were seeing the deck pop up on DB Grinder's channel for a little bit before, but outside of that I don't think the deck has really had very much success. However, in the set coming after Dimension Force Power of the Elements, we do have a new Mech card coming out, which in and of itself looks really good. It's like a Magician's Souls type of extender that also lets you search for a spell or trap card. There's definitely a lot of potential since people were interested in Mechs before this card. As a result, people have turned their attention to Mech Edition, a short printed super rare from back in Mystic Fighters. This is a pretty simple card. You can special summon it from your hand by targeting a face-up monster on the field. You boost that monster by 1,000 attack points, and then you are locked into Cyberse monsters for the rest of the turn. Really what you're after here is the free summon, so this is probably going to be a 3 of in whatever Mech build you're choosing to run. However, since this card was short printed and Mystic Fighters was actually opened a fair amount due to people chasing their Dragon Maid waifu cards, Edition is now a $20 super rare. Honestly though, Power of the Elements is quite a ways away, so I think that the probability of Edition being reprinted in something like an OTS tournament pack or something closer to the release of that set is actually pretty likely. Unless you're really big on Mechs, I'd probably look to offload this card to someone who's really eager for it as soon as you can, because the hype here is definitely going to die down. I personally am expecting this card to be back at around $10 within a week or so. Next up we have Capshell. So I remember when this card was first revealed to be a secret rare from Rising Rampage, my buddy pulled one and I was joking with him about how bad this card was and how it could have been just like an Appaloosa or literally anything else. Capshell is a level 2 monster that lets you draw a card when you use it for another type of summon, right? So a tribute for a tribute summon, synchro material, fusion material, etc. And literally, like, that's it. Well, it turns out that being a level 2 is good enough to get people to look at this card. We just had a new archetype called the Splight revealed to be coming out in Power of the Elements, and the theme consists of level 2 monsters that can special summon themselves from hand if you control a level 2 monster. So theoretically you can normal summon this and then unload some monsters from your hand, and this card is going to net you a free draw while you link it off or Xyz with it. Pretty interesting theory, but nothing really that crazy or game breaking. Now, secret rare Capshells used to be under $1 each, but now we are seeing them up at around the $4 to $5 mark since that is the highest rarity for the card. There is also the rare version from the Megatons that is quite affordable. Personally, I think that this card is overhyped and isn't going to see play when the deck is officially out. I just think that other cards like Deep Sea Diva are a better use of your normal summon. That being said, if you can find someone who wants to buy into the hype of this card, I say go ahead and let them offload your copies early while people are still testing out their decks. Maybe keep a set of secrets for yourself if you really want them and you got them for like $1 or something, but this card should go back down to $1 or $2 once people realize that it still isn't very useful. Alright, so maybe I'm looking at this card a little bit early since we haven't seen much movement of this card at the time of me making this video, but we have Vendread Battlelord. So just last night, literally like an hour before I'm filming this, we had some interesting Vendread support revealed to be released in Power of the Elements, and I think that the new ritual spell actually does look kind of crazy. I don't know too much about Vendreads. Being a ritual archetype, it would take a lot more for them to be really good in today's game since it's inherently harder to ritual summon than it is to do any sort of other type of summon. But if the deck can do something interesting, expect Vendread Battlelord to be an important piece of that. This card is actually a Shockmaster type of card, allowing you to declare either monsters, spells, or traps, and then prevent your opponent from using that type of card for the rest of the turn. On top of that, if it leaves the field, you get to search for a ritual monster and then dump a Vendread monster from your deck to the graveyard, which is crazy value that can't miss timing, so you get that effect even if you choose to like link off the Battlelord. This card is honestly kind of nuts. It just makes me wish it was part of a better archetype. Anyways, this card is only $1 right now, but to me, this is the card from the archetype to keep an eye on. If Vendreads do manage to pull off some crazy combos, Battlelord is probably going to be a key piece of that could get expensive because it only has one super rare printing available from back in Extreme Force. This is definitely a card to go ahead and pull out of your hollow bulk if you can find them, since the new Vendread support could mean that this is a very scary card to have to play against. Okay, so this one maybe isn't as recent, but the next card we're looking at here is Predaplant Trifiobaritum. This is one of the Predaplant boss monsters requiring 3 dark monsters to make, but it is one heck of a card as it can get a huge attack power boost if you can place enough Predaplant counters on the field. It can negate summons of monsters from the extra deck, and it can special summon itself back out of the graveyard. Pretty cool stuff. This card is actually on people's radar because of the new Predaplant support that is coming out in Dimension Force. The new Predaplant cards are actually really good. The new level 5 fusion that they have makes me really glad that instant fusion is limited already. Predaplants are an archetype that haven't really gotten any attention from competitive players outside of Verte Anaconda, but maybe this new support could change things. Anyways, apparently anticipation for the new support has caused Trifiobaritum to be bought out to the $35 mark on TCG Player, which is pretty ridiculous. It's even crazier when you remember that we have Legendary Duelist Season 3 set to be released in July of 2022, just a couple months away, and Trifiobaritum is almost certainly going to be reprinted there, since its only printing at the moment is from Legendary Duelist's Immortal Destiny. You guys know the drill by now. Unless you're really big on wanting to play Predaplants right when they come out because you know that there's something special, I'd recommend offloading your copies of this card as soon as possible and then buying them back once the reprint hits the market at a much more affordable price. So on to a meta tech choice here. Let's look at NonFusion Area. Obviously this is a really simple continuous trap with a short but sweet effect stating that neither player is allowed to fusion summon. This card is definitely meant to be sided against the branded Despia deck, since I think the entire extra deck for them consists of fusion monsters. Now in theory, this card should lock Despia players out. However, I would think that players would be ready for cards like this in addition to needing outs to things like Skill Drain, There Can Be Only One, and Artifact Scythe. I would naturally assume that people who are playing the Despia deck would be siding cards in such as Lightning Storm, Cosmic Cyclone, and Twin Twisters. For this reason, it would probably be much better to run something like Dimensional Barrier instead of a card like this, since it's chainable and can lock your opponent for the turn still, and is much harder to go ahead and negate. But people will still try to use NonFusion Area, which is why all versions of this card have jumped up in price. The card has only ever been a common, where the Legendary Collection and Elemental Energy commons are about 5 each, and then the DRO4 commons are $10, but they're all really kind of the same thing. There's also very few copies available on the market of any version of this card that are near mint. Given that the card is so old, a lot of them are going to be damaged. I don't know, I personally am not a really big fan of this card, even though it could work in theory. I guess we'll see what happens when people test it out. It is, however, a card that's definitely worth digging out of your common bulk, as it's a card that was only worth a few cents, but is now going to be worth several dollars. So it wouldn't be a market watch in the month leading up to the release of the Albaz Strike structure deck without us talking about at least one Despia card, and for today we're taking a look at Despion Quaeritus. This is a level 8 fusion monster that you can make with a Despia monster and then either a light or a dark monster. It has 2 effects. The first is where you can make all monsters that aren't level 8 or higher fusion monsters have 0 attack power for the rest of the turn, and then when it leaves the field because of your opponent, you can either search for or special summon a Fallen of Albaz or Despia monster from your deck. Obviously this isn't like a combo piece or anything like that, but it is important because it can win games for you by setting it up so that you can attack for game, but then also fetching you a resource if your opponent manages to stop this card and out it. Now from all of the OCG builds that I've taken a look at previously, I do believe that Quaeritus is just a one-of. However, because it is necessary and wasn't reprinted in the Albaz Strike structure deck, this card is now a $17 card. While the surge in price is partially due to the upcoming structure deck, we should also keep in mind that the Despia deck actually did take a top 16 spot at YCS Charlotte without the new support, so there is a very good chance that the deck is going to be very strong on release here in the TCG. Now, this is an ultra rare with just one printing available from back in Dawn of Majesty. With Aluber getting a reprint in Ghost from the past two, there is a small chance that we could see Quaeritis in there as well, but I wouldn't get my hopes up too high personally. We probably won't see this card reprinted until the 2022 Megatins. You might have to just suck it up and buy this card if you're wanting to play with all of the new structure deck stuff right on their release. Alright, the final card we have to take a look at here today is Ghost Mourner and Moonlit Chill. So this is probably one of the more forgotten Ghost Girl hand traps. It's kind of like a pseudo effect veiler, negating the effect of an opponent's special summon monster when you discard it, but it also has a cool effect where if that monster leaves the field this turn, the controller takes damage equal to that monster's attack points. Super simple. I did see this card in a few side decks and even some main decks. Now, I don't want to think that people are just signing this card in because of the time rules, but I guess that is definitely a possibility. I suppose that one other potential application is that in the Brave Tenyi deck, this card is a level 3 tuner monster, so theoretically you could normal summon this card and use it with an Ashuna or a Vashuda or the Griffin Rider to make a level 10 synchro monster, which obviously isn't an optimal play, but maybe having that as an option is a reason to play this card over Effect Veiler or Infinite Impermanence. Now with Ghost Mourner, it is just the secret rare version that we've seen shoot up in price. A few months ago we were seeing this card down at $10 to $11, but now we're seeing the cheapest version of this card available online up at $20 to $25, which is basically double the price. Fortunately, the card does have a Megatin reprint and a maximum gold rare printing, each of which are quite cheap, so the card itself is pretty affordable and accessible if you're just looking to use it. However, as a Ghost Girl hand trap, we should expect the original secret rare printing to retain a fair amount of value, and I think that for a card like this that provides a negation and the potential to burn your opponent, it's reasonable to expect this to maintain a $20 to $25 price tag moving forward. Okay guys, that is it for today's episode. There's actually a lot of stuff I want to talk about. I didn't get a chance to go over absolutely everything in today's episode. I'm hoping that I'll have the chance to go over some stuff later this week, but I do know that Tom has a ton of stuff to talk about from his trip to Charlotte as well, so we'll just have to see. Anyways guys, if you did enjoy today's Market Watch, please let me know by slamming that thumbs up button for me. It does help out a ton. Also, please make sure you leave a comment in the comment section down below. Let me know what you guys think about the cards we talked about today and what other cards are trending on the market so that I can cover them in a future episode as well. Also, if you haven't already, do make sure that you hit that subscribe button to get all of the latest and greatest content from both Tombox and myself here on the channel. And until next time guys, don't forget to hold on to your MST.TV.